I can't hear the control room either. I can hear you now. Yes. Yes, I can hear you.
From the KTVB News Group, this is a Decision 2018 special. Live now, team coverage of the Idaho general election.
New book to homeless students, classmates of your children.
A wall of hard driving rain causing some...
This isn't going to be over in the next 24 hours.
This project is to be continued.
From the
Pet Cash and Morgan Boydston are with the Democrats, along with candidate Paulette Jordan. We'll hear from her in just a moment. But our Dee Sarton and Joe Paris are at the Republicans' election night party at the Riverside Hotel. And Gretchen Parsons is live at the Ada County Elections Office.
Also, political analyst Dr. Stephanie Witt from Boise State will be with us as well here on the desk in the studio to break down all of those results. But as mentioned, you see the Democratic candidate for the governor's chair standing by with our Morgan Boydston and Doug Petcash, who join us now. Take it away.
Will you do this one? And welcome to the Idaho Democratic Party headquarters, where we have an excited crowd behind us because on the screens you can see that they did just call it the House is now flipped to Democrats. And we are joined now by the Democratic candidate for Governor Paulette Jordan. Paulette, how are you feeling right now?
I'm feeling excellent. All the energy, all the adrenaline, all the good feelings and the prayers, they're with us tonight.
You came out a little bit earlier and gave a speech to the supporters. What was your basic message here at the beginning of the night to them?
I want everyone to walk away feeling proud of themselves for all the hard work, all the sweat and the tears and the prayers that culminated to tonight. I just want everyone to walk out of here knowing that they've won, knowing that they brought Idaho together collectively, and that while we are building trust with each other, that we're ultimately building this one Idaho family, representing each other in our individualities at the same time, and this is what we want. We want this new, better version of Idaho to be represented by all the people.
I want to ask, Idaho is a very red state traditionally, but seeing that the House has flipped to Democratic control, give you even more confidence perhaps as the results start coming in?
Absolutely, and it does come down to state by state. I would say that for those of us who have been out talking to our neighbors and friends and knocking on doors, making phone calls, at the end of the day it comes down to just simply no regrets. We worked hard to this point, so however it looks tonight, I'm simply proud of everyone and making sure that they all adhere to this positive message, because it's not about going negative, it's simply presenting our children and wanting to have a better future.
And polls just closed a couple minutes ago because the North is in Pacific time. Are you watching those numbers roll in right now? Is your team watching those?
Our team is watching. We're excited, and we see in some areas run out of ballots, but what we want to ultimately get back to is being happy about the turnout. We've had so many people who have now built up a new faith in their government again, and as we're starting to build up this courage for people to be part of this participatory government, all we know right now is that people love their Idaho, and however that lands later on tonight, we're just proud of each and every one, because as I've said before, I can go home at night and say that I've honored my ancestors and I've honored my children, so I'm very happy and very proud of our turnout tonight.
And planning on making a speech either at 10 or 10:30?
Probably around 10:30, yes.
Okay. You've run a very unique campaign. You're a unique candidate. So, I wish you the best of luck in whatever you do going forward.
All right, thank you, Mark.
And I wanted to know, what was this last day like for you? You mentioned that you were in eastern Idaho today?
Right, we started up in Briggins. We did our last trail to the State House, starting all the way from North Idaho. And we snaked all the way down through our state and went as far as the Briggins. Victor, we stopped in Idaho Falls, Pocatello, Twin Falls. We were in Glens Ferry this morning, and then we came back to Boise. So here we are, a long tour. And of course it was exciting because we're rallying up our people, saying thank you, ensuring that they understand that we're always going to be connected. We will always hear the voices of the people, and it's that sense of trust and belonging that we're about.
I guess you'll get some sleep after tonight.
perhaps. We'll see. We're still on the go after this.
Hitting the campaign trail every single day since the primary. I mean, it's a lot of energy. Well, in the meantime, we will send it back to you guys in the studio.
Best wishes to you, Representative Jordan.
Thank you for your time, and we'll check back in with her as well.
Okay, what a scene there at the Dems in downtown Boise at the Grove Hotel. Thanks, you guys.
So loud, it's hard to hear them
It
at
is.
times throughout that interview. Our Dee Sarton and Joe Paris are at the Republicans' election party at the Riverside Hotel in Boise, standing by. Guys, take it away.
All right, thanks so much. And Tom Luna alongside, of course, Tom Luna, former superintendent of public instruction, and somebody who has spent the last couple of elections with us really breaking down the numbers. You're just starting to see early numbers come in from Ada County elections on the governor's race. What are you seeing?
The early returns show Paulette Jordan with a lead of 55% to 45%. And so it's, you can expect Ada County to be a strong for Democrats, and the early vote is showing that to be the case.
But you've got a lot more votes yet to come. As you know, that's what's interesting about what Tom does is he's sitting here looking at the precincts. He kind of knows the behavior that's often expected from these different precincts. And where do you expect that Brad will come in the strongest? Brad Little will come in the strongest when he starts to see those numbers come in.
So the counties that I'm looking at, Canyon County, Kootenai County, Bonneville County, Madison County, a couple counties in the Magic Valley, and I think those will give us a trend. And I think other than Ada County, Brad Little will play well, and Brad will do well enough in Ada County, I think, to win this race. But if a Republican doesn't do well enough in Ada County, oftentimes there's not enough votes around the rest of the state to make up for taking a big loss in Ada County. I learned that personally the first time I ran. And so as I look at these results and looking at some of these races that we think will be close, how Ada County plays will have an impact on how this will end up at the end of the night.
Absolutely. Ada County, the population center of the state, for sure.
Oh, yeah. And I've got some numbers to add, and these are under the banner of way too early numbers. But we just talked about Ada County. We talked about statewide. Right now, Paulette Jordan with a thin margin over Brad Little, 52.6% of the vote, 46.3% for Brad Little. That's with 11 out of 959 precincts reporting. So, again, these are way too early to really tell anything. As Tom was just talking, we'll see those numbers coming in Ada County first. Again, a very important story to tell in Ada County, but one of the more blue-leaning areas as well. As we look around the state of Idaho, some other things we're seeing so far. Lieutenant Governor, we see Kristen Cullum out in front of Janice McGeehan, and the list goes on. But one race that we're watching very closely tonight, that Superintendent of Public Instruction. Right now, Cindy Wilson is mounting a pretty significant edge so far. Again, way too early to tell, but Cindy Wilson with 60% of the vote, Ybarra 40%. So that's one we're keeping an eye on here tonight, Tom. I know especially as a former superintendent of public instruction, you keep an eye on as well.
That's always a close race in Idaho. It was every time that we ran. I think what you're seeing in the superintendent's race and in the governor's race is the original numbers coming in, or the early numbers coming in from Ada County. And that's what's being reflected here. So we'll see how the rest of the state comes in and how it starts averaging out and playing out across the state. It'll be interesting.
You talked about how close the superintendent's race is. Dee and I were talking a few minutes ago. Back in 2014, Ybarra barely won. She barely knocked off Jana Jones. She got 50.6% of the vote. She only won by 6,000 votes. So it was a close race 4 years ago. We saw how competitive the race was. We saw how heated some of these debates got. To me, it may be the most interesting race that we're going to watch here tonight. And it's also one that technically you might not see people voting along party lines. So I know as I'm hearing side conversations here at the Riverside, this one may be the one to watch tonight.
You know, and it's been interesting to watch the Idaho Education Association in this particular race, because endorsing Brad Little for governor, but Sherri Ybarra not getting the endorsement, rather going to Cindy Wilson from the teachers union. That is an unusual dynamic to have happen.
And then you have well-known business and conservative Republicans like Frank Vandersloot coming out and endorsing Cindy Wilson, and the IEA endorsing Brad Little. It's kind of bizarro world, right? And for people who are political junkies and watch this stuff play out. So it's going to be an interesting race. It always is for state superintendent. I do think when people get to their ballot, if their conscience doesn't let them vote just an R for everyone or D, oftentimes Republicans will look at education and they'll think, Democrats, I'm comfortable with a Democrat in that position, so that's the one. I had to consider those dynamics when we ran and take those into account.
Like
I had one question for Tom. You mentioned the endorsement, Vandersloot for Wilson. How much does that mean in that race? Because it was a little late in the game. That is a big Idaho name, the Vandersloots. How important is that?
It'll have an impact in eastern Idaho. It'll have a tremendous impact, and I've seen that play out in my own races when Frank leans in, the impact he can have, especially in eastern Idaho.
And you probably saw the moment during the debate between Wilson and Ybarra when I asked Wilson who she was voting for governor. Big pause and said she hadn't decided yet. But Paulette Jordan had come out strongly supporting her in her race. What was going on? What was the dynamic there?
Well, Cindy would have to answer what was actually going on in her head and stuff, but I truly think that she was perplexed with how to answer that, because, like I said, maybe I didn't say this here, but I said it before, was when I was in office, when we wanted to find some bipartisan representation on committees, we often went to Cindy Wilson, we meaning Governor Otter and myself. She was, she's a good educator, she's an education leader, and she's very reasonable in her approach. And so knowing Cindy from that vein, I think she would work very well with a Governor Little, and I think that's what she was trying to weigh in her mind, is what's the best answer to give at that time. And I think she punted.
Yes, a lot of things going on through somebody's head in a moment like that.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's send it back to the studio. We have some candidates standing by. We've got Janice McGeehan, who is going to be visiting with us shortly, and we're also hoping to catch up with Lieutenant Governor candidate Brad Little here before too much longer. Back to you.
All right, Dee and Joe, thanks so much. We want to send it now back to our Democratic headquarters. Doug Petcash is standing by with Kristen Cullum. She is the Democratic candidate for Lieutenant Governor. Looking at the numbers so far in Ada County, Cullum is pulling ahead with 58% of the vote compared to Janice McGeehan's 41% of the vote. So, Doug, hopefully you can hear me.
However, statewide, Janice McGeehan is at 86%, Kristen Cullum at 14%, but again, only 1% of the statewide voting is in.
Yeah. All right. So, Doug Petcash, take it away.
Just a little bit earlier, we talked with gubernatorial candidate Paulette Jordan, and now I'm standing by with Lieutenant Governor candidate Democrat Kristen Cullum. Kristen, thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome. Thank you.
So how do you feel now that the campaigning is over?
Oh, it's just great. There's been so much energy this year, and now it's coming to the forefront, and I'm just excited about tonight and seeing the results.
When I talked to you a little bit earlier in the hallway and I asked you how you felt, you said powerful. Why did you choose that word?
It's been building momentum every day for months now, and it's really culminating till tonight. So I really feel powerful, and I feel like we're going to crush it tonight.
Okay, you're an Army veteran, 12 years.
Yes.
You worked under Colin Powell for a while. Then you went into the tech sector with Micron and HP. You hadn't run for office before, so why run for Lieutenant Governor? Why did you feel that was the right target for you in your first political attempt?
It completely matches the skill set of what I've been doing for decades. I've been leading teams, I've been solving problems, running to the fire, and just helping solve problems.
So the way Idaho is set up, Lieutenant Governor and Governor do not run as a ticket, they run separately. So there is that chance tonight that you could win, but then you might serve under a Republican governor. We'll see how the results come in, not putting the cart in front of the horse. But if Brad Little wins and you win, will you be able to work with him even though you're in different parties?
Absolutely. We're on Team Idaho, and we're all on the same team working together. So I can absolutely fill in and find where he needs help the most and help him if that's the case and get the job done.
Now, philosophically, you're going to have differences of opinion on the way things should do. How will you handle that when there's a debate about a policy issue or legislation or something like that? How will you weigh in that situation?
Yeah, I'll stay true to my values and I'll speak my mind, but we'll still find ways that we can work together and around that.
Okay, so how did you spend your last day on the campaign trail?
So we started out bright and early in Nampa, and then Caldwell, and then we went to Nampa, and then Meridian, and then we brought it back home to Boise last night.
Has there been much sleep over the last few days or few months?
What's that?
That's when your eyes close and you go unconscious for a while.
Not so much.
Not so much. And so you're feeling pretty good right now, then?
I am.
Well, best wishes to you. We'll watch the results along with you, and hopefully we can talk to you a little bit later when we get a better idea or when the race is called.
Great. Thank you, Doug.
Thank you, Ms. Cullum, very much, and best wishes tonight. So there you have it. We've been speaking with Lieutenant Governor candidate on the Democratic side, Kristen Cullum. A very big crowd here at Democratic headquarters tonight. Maybe as many as 1,300 people will be here. Back to you guys.
That's good turnout.
Yeah, Doug, thank you. The lieutenant governor's race is historic, as we've mentioned here before on KTVB. It will be the first female lieutenant governor elected to the state. And I had a chance to sit down for a one-on-one with both candidates. And these women have worked hard for this race. Kristen Cullum has traveled to all 44 counties. She has really prided herself on the fact that she has met with the voters face to face. I said, even in this day and age and this technology, using this right here with social media, she felt like it was important for the candidates to hear her, or rather, excuse me, the voters to hear her. And she said, when a lot of people did finally hear her story, they said, you know what, we're voting for you. You're the candidate that we want. She calls herself a moderate, but yet fiscally conservative. And Janice McGeehan, traveling on the big Republican bus, traveling 3,000 miles, a lot of miles logged on the campaign trail. So we understand that Janice McGeehan, the Republican candidate for governor, is now leading in the results with 61%. But again, these are early numbers coming in.
That's right. Only about 5% of the statewide in, but this is really a race that the Democrats in the state thought they had a chance to win. Let's go now to the GOP headquarters, where our Joe Paris is alongside Janice McGeehan and also Idaho Senator Mike Crapo. Take it away.
Yeah, you probably can. You can probably hear me better. I may not be able to hear you.
Okay, Dee, can you hear us? Dee,
Hi, Dee.
Can you hear us, Dee?
Oh, I'm sorry. You know, a little confusion here, as you can tell.
Okay.
Loud in the room. But I know Joe has Janice McGeehan ready to talk with you in just a moment.
Well,
but
we
let me
just
grab
talked to
Senator
Kristen
Crapo.
Cullum, so we thought that would be appropriate right now.
I think so too, but for some reason I think we're having a hard time getting over there. Let's see if we can go to Joe. Can we
They took the other
get over to Joe?
Oh, now they are. Okay, all right. Now we are with Janice McGeehan. Okay, we had a little bit of a miscommunication, but Janice McGeehan running for lieutenant governor. I'll ask you again, you're here tonight after a long cycle. Finally, election night. What's the feeling like for you in this room?
It feels so amazing to be here tonight, surrounded by friends, family, and supporters. It's been a great year, and I have had such great support from all over Idaho, people that can't be here tonight but are all over our state, helping us to spread our message of keeping Idaho great. We love America, we love Idaho, and it's been very positive. It's really uplifting to be here tonight.
And it's a really historic lieutenant governor's race because no matter who wins tonight, Idaho will have its first female lieutenant governor. First, for you and your opponent, what does that mean?
Well, it means as a woman, bringing the experience that I have that so many other women have as well. As women, we wear many different hats. We're wives, we're mothers, we're best friends, we're successful business women, and we have a lot to offer, being able to bring our experience to the level of state government and represent the people across our great state. Idaho is such a great state. I'm so happy to be able to have the opportunity to represent Idaho.
And you were in the State House for several terms. You served until 2012. One question for you is, why are you jumping back into things now after retiring from the State House?
Well, we're on a roll here in our country. What we're seeing in America is a rejuvenation of excitement and business opportunity with the lower tax rates, having the government regulations reduced off of the backs of the hardworking Idahoans, and being a small business woman and knowing the impact of that, what we try to do is provide jobs and opportunity for other people, and that's what this is all about. And there's a level of enthusiasm in our country that we're seeing tonight and across the whole country. Keep that going.
You can feel the excitement here in the room. For you and a lot of people in this room, if things go the way you're hoping, it'll be a Republican sweep, which would mean Brad Little as governor, you as lieutenant governor. First, what's your relationship like with Mr. Little?
Brad Little is a great man. I've gotten to know him very well since the primary election. We've been working together, supporting each other. We had some really good teamwork during the general election, and I'm really looking forward to working with him and my friends in the legislature to advance solid policy for the hardworking people of Idaho.
Probably a lot of familiar faces in the State House you'd be excited to see.
Yes.
Well,
I'll be ready to hit the ground running in January with the experience that I've had serving in the legislature, understanding the challenges that we face with healthcare and education and roads. It's going to take some good leadership of people working together and building synergy to do further good things for the people of Idaho.
Well, thank you so much for joining us here tonight. We'll catch up with you in a little bit. For now, we'll send it over to our D-Sergeant.
Well, and now we can sit down and visit with Senator Crapo, who just walked in the room. We had a little confusion there for a moment. Senator Crapo, thanks for hanging with us here for a moment, because we've just learned, as we've been watching national coverage of the election, that it looks like the Senate is going to hold on to a Republican majority. It looks like that might not be the case in the House. But let's just talk about it from the Senate side, since that's where you serve, and what this means to you tonight, what's happening on the national scene.
Well, this is really a big deal. It does look, and I don't count my chickens until they're hatched, but it looks very good in a number of Senate races. And if it turns out the way it's looking right now, we will actually pick up a seat or two, or maybe even more. And that can be critical, because remember the health care vote, we missed it by one vote. If we get another 2 or 3 votes, we can make a big difference.
And I would imagine, you're on the Judicial Committee, I would imagine that as we're looking at the situation on the judiciary, as those come through the Senate, that's very important too, for you to have, from your perspective, to have that kind of cushion.
That's true. And, I moved to the Judiciary Committee this Congress for that reason. And we've now done 2 Supreme Court cases, or justices. We have now done probably a third or more of the circuit court judges in the United States, and many more. And these are judges who will follow the law. They will interpret the laws, the statute, and the Constitution as they were written. And we've had a judiciary that has been swinging into a very activist mode. And so that's a very critical thing that I think many Americans are really appreciative of.
So for your fellow Republicans tonight who might be discouraged by what's happening in the House, that would be a bright spot for them tonight, it sounds like, from what you're saying. Yeah, it
would be. And, I'm not ready to give up on the House yet, but if it turns out that we lose the House, that'll make it a little more difficult on the legislative front, but on the nominations front, and that's not just judicial nominations, but all nominations across the government. We'll make a lot of progress. And we have proven, and I think my record shows, that I will work with those on the other side. If the House is Democrat and they want to legislate and find solutions rather than to do investigations and litigate, I'm willing, and I know that our caucus will be willing to work with them to find those kinds of bipartisan solutions that can actually help America.
But you know the climate right now, and I'm better than any of us, but when we watch it from Idaho, it's pretty discouraging that what you're referencing could actually happen.
It is. I'll refer, though, to the financial bill that I moved through the Senate this year with 17 Democrat senators in this climate supporting it. And my point is, there are things that we can find agreement on. If the House, if it's Democrat, if they want to work and find some solutions on things that really make a difference, there are a lot of things there where we can make progress.
Well, I need to let you go, but I do want to ask you just real quickly about the Brett Kavanaugh hearing.
Yes.
It almost seems like ancient history now, because so much has been happening since. But you were front seat in the center of all of that. Just very quickly, looking back on that, what is your assessment of how that's affected our country?
Well, it's kind of sweet and sour at the same point. Brett Kavanaugh is one of the most qualified people ever to be considered for the Supreme Court, and I believe he will be the kind of Supreme Court justice that we need and will be a big difference for America in the future. That being said, the battle that took place over his nomination has split our country deeply. It was very discouraging. And I just hope that in the future we can get away from that kind of incredibly mean-spirited and divisive situation. It's probably the meanest experience that I've been in the United States Senate.
Well, we'll let that be almost the last word, but obviously you don't have a race tonight. Are we going to see you running for another term.
You know, I haven't decided yet, but I never decide this far out
Yeah.
of another election. So I guess
All
we'll
right.
have to wait till the next time.
Well, let us know first. All right, Senator Crapo here with us, and back to the studio.
All right, Dee, thank you. And our thanks to Senator Crapo there, sitting in the easy seat tonight.
That's right. We want to be transparent with all of you watching on Facebook Live, Idaho's very own 24/7, and KTVB.com, that occasionally, a couple of times during the next half hour, we are going to also join folks on Channel 7 doing what we call a 4-minute cut-in. So we're going to make that very transparent, and we're going to start that now. Decision 2018, we welcome you into KTVB's live coverage, taking you up to 10 o'clock on both the network and here, and then at 10 o'clock we are wire to wire until all the races are called.
It has been jam-packed so far. If you've been joining us on Idaho's very own 24/7, KTVB.com, and our live Facebook page, you have heard from Paulette Jordan, Kristen Cullum, Janice McGeehan. That's the kind of coverage you can count on here on KTVB Election Night.
That's right, and much more to go. We have you covered. We're live where the Prop 2 folks are beside Bardenay. Also, we're live downtown at the Grove Hotel, where the Democrats are what they are hoping will be a celebratory event, and we're also live at the Boise Riverside with the GOP.
All right, so we want to bring in, we have Dr. Stephanie Witt. She is KTVB's political analyst, helping us break down the numbers. Some excitement from the Dems, some excitement from the Republicans, but Stephanie, it is still very much an early night here in Idaho.
It is, and it's good to be excited, but remember we only have, from the Secretary of State's office, about 18 of the 900 and some precincts in the state. So very early, and it may take some time for the precincts that are more remote to get their votes in, and of course the polls only just closed in northern Idaho. So early leads on Proposition 2, for example, jumping out was 70% saying yes, but you got to wait for all the votes to be counted.
Right.
So it's very early in the night.
There you go. There's the expansion of Medicaid. Right now you can see 67-33. And then you've also been watching Prop 1 very closely over there on the 8 screens that you have open.
Prop 1 is somewhat of a dead heat, as we expected. This might be one of the last races, if you will, to be called for the night, because right now pretty much even. Prop 1, those voting yes, 47%, no at 52%. But again, very early here, only 18 of the 959 precincts reporting statewide.
And if we can throw up the governor's race very quickly right now, and again, as Stephanie, as you mentioned, we've only got 3 precincts reporting right now. Brad Little with a 52-47 edge over Paulette Jordan. But as you just mentioned, the polls have been closed for an hour and a half in southern Idaho. They've been closed for a half hour in North Idaho. Right. It's hard really to analyze this right now, isn't it?
It is, and you may see some of the Ada County precinct numbers coming in early because of their technology they're using with the voting. You may see that earlier than you see the rest of the state, but Ada County is going to trend more Democrat on the vote than the rest of the state, so you need to kind of wait and see how it goes.
Well, as we mentioned, you can follow the latest results as they come in at KTVB.com. And throughout the night, we're going to be taking you to our touch screen as well on the other side of the studio to show you county by county. And there you can see county by county and state by state right now is how that is punched up. And you'll be able to track the votes as they come in. So that a couple of very important tools for you to use as we send it back to the network here in the matter of seconds. And we'll join you on Facebook Live, KTVB.com, and 24/7 on the other side, as we say.
All right, thanks for watching.
All right, the little cut-in on Channel 7, as we call it, the mothership, has been completed. We're going to do another one here in about another 15 minutes, but we want to send it out to the Democrats who have Cindy Wilson, the school superintendent candidate, another one of those positions, like the lieutenant governor's race, that the Democrats in the state think that they have a chance of winning over the incumbent, Sherri Ybarra. So let's send it downtown to the Democratic headquarters at the Grove Hotel. Take it away, Morgan. Okay, we've got some microphone problems. We're going to try to get that figured out. And if you want to let us know as soon as they give us a good microphone check, we'll get back to them. But
I was just trying to pull up some of the numbers looking at the superintendent's race from the Secretary of State website. So again, that means the statewide numbers. Cindy Wilson, the Democrat, is in the lead with 59% of the vote. Sherri Ybarra, the incumbent, with 40% of the vote. Surprises there, Dr. Witt?
Well, I think this is probably the best chance the Democrats have to win a statewide office, that and the lieutenant governor's race. And so I'm expecting a close race. We probably won't know until later in the night. It may be neck and neck. But we'll see. It's possible, of course, that Cindy Wilson could pull ahead substantially, but we've only got, let's see, it looks like about 23 of the 959 precincts in, so it's a little early to tell.
A little early to be celebrating.
And again, she's from the northern part of the state where those votes will come in later on. We want to send it now to Gretchen Parsons. She is beside Bardnay in downtown Boise with the folks for Prop 2.
I think we got Morgan back. Nope, now we got Gretchen.
Now we got Gretchen. Oh, actually, she's at the Ada County election headquarters. She was at Prop 2. Gretchen, you are everywhere tonight.
It's hard to keep track of, Gretchen.
There, where they're counting the ballots.
Mark, that's right. I've certainly been making the rounds tonight here at the Ada County Election Center. It's the beginning of a very long night for volunteers here. The first batch of boxes of ballots have just started to come in. And behind me, volunteers, they're preparing to count the thousands of ballots that are going to come in tonight. And of course, polls around the state, they just closed. I made my way to several earlier this evening. I went to a couple in Boise, Meridian, and Nampa. Big crowds there, lines as well. And staff at those polling places, they told me that the turnout for this day has been huge, and they compared it to equal or numbers that have even surpassed the 2016 presidential election cycle. Of course, we'll have to wait till the end of the night to see if we actually did surpass that number, but voting turnout has been great. And as far as early voting, we've already made some historic numbers in Idaho. More than 168,000 absentee ballots were issued. Of those, this morning, more than 153,000 were returned, and then there was about 14,000 ballots that were outstanding. People had until 8 p.m. tonight to get those turned in, so that number could change as well. And like I said, the first batch has just came into the elections office here. It's going to be a really long night for these volunteers, so we're just going to stand by here and wait as more trickle in. Back to you.
Nice to know that there have not been road bumps as there have been in previous years involving lack of ballots, late counting the ballots. So far right now, things are going
Well, you're
smoothly.
knocking on that wood pretty early, Mark Johnson.
I know. You need to do that. That's the way it works.
All right. We mentioned earlier that Morgan is standing by with Democrat Cindy Wilson. She is the candidate for Superintendent of Public Instruction, and right now she is in the lead. Morgan?
Yes, apologies for that microphone technical difficulty earlier. I am joined now by Cindy Wilson, Democratic candidate running for Superintendent of Public Instruction, running against incumbent Republican candidate Sherri Ybarra. Cindy, you have been an educator for 33 years. You have taught all over the state of Idaho. You sit on many boards, including the Idaho Board of Corrections. Why run for statewide office in such a big position like superintendent?
I'm doing it for my kids, really. For every child I've ever taught across the state, and also for my colleagues. You know, I was a teacher in May, so as I've traveled the state all summer, I've talked to teachers. I know how they're feeling, and we need help. We need some changes to happen, and I'm so excited about what the future holds for us.
What do you think here in Idaho needs to change? Because we talk debate after debate, election coverage after story about how Idaho ranks near the bottom in a lot of national rankings. What do you think specifically needs to change?
Yeah, we need leadership. We need somebody standing out in front and saying, come on, let's go, let's make something happen, and not be satisfied with this status quo. And the biggest thing that we need to do is take care of our kids first. And we do that with early childhood education. We can make such a difference with kids if we start a full-day kindergarten and some preschool for them. And then next, and actually maybe in tandem with, let's take care of teachers. They matter in this state. We have so many great hardworking teachers in this state. Let's take care of them first, all right? Because they're going to help kids.
Well, we struggle with recruitment and we struggle with retention, and I know that's a big platform issue for you.
Yes, because when I was in the Panhandle, they were commiserating about all their colleagues they were leaving that were crossing the state line to go into Washington because they have such a higher pay scale and also a different respect for teachers. We need to make that happen here in Idaho. I'm committed to teachers to make that happen in Idaho.
And you are running on the Democratic ticket, but you have said multiple times that you do not want this to be a partisan campaign.
This has to be about an Idaho education for Idaho kids. Everybody come together, join our bandwagon, and let's get started.
Kim Fields, our main anchor, just said in my earpiece that you were in the lead. How are you feeling about that?
I am?
That's what she said.
I want to say thank you to every student I've ever taught, to every family I've ever been associated with, and my teacher colleagues. I love you guys. Thank you for working so hard all this time to help us help kids.
Emotional, it's emotional for you.
Yeah, it's a positive thing.
Yeah. And if tonight doesn't go the way you intended, you said you still feel like it's a win.
It's a win either way because we have brought to the attention of everybody what the needs of our communities are, and we're going to make change happen one way or another.
You've gotten several endorsements, too, from Democrats and Republicans, right?
That's what this is about, bringing people together to make change.
And you'll be watching the polls closely, I'm sure, for the rest of the evening? No, that's what her team is for, in fact.
No, I am thanking everybody that has ever done anything to help us out.
Well, wonderful. Thank you for your time. We'll check back in with you as soon as all of those ballots are counted. We'll send it back to you guys back at the studio.
All right, Morgan and Cindy Wilson, thanks so much. We want to do kind of a recap now, take a look at where the major races stand, starting with the big one, the race for governor. As it stands right now, Brad Little is in the lead with 53% of the vote. Democrat Paulette Jordan close behind with 46% of the vote. And this is with just 23 of the 959 precincts reporting. So again, these are still very early results. Dr. Witt, Mark, anybody want to join in on this and any kind of surprises that you're seeing with the turnout so far for the race for governor?
Well, you need to remember that Jordan faces a numeric challenge that's very high. It's very steep, that the number of registered Republicans is bigger than the number of registered Democrats and unaffiliated together, right? So to be successful, there would have to be a lot of, all of the Democrats and all of the unaffiliated folks voting for Paulette Jordan. So I'm not saying that can't happen.
It's an uphill climb.
It's just unlikely, right? And it's a very uphill climb. So these early numbers may be reflecting Ada County precincts. But we'll see. That's why we hold the election, not just do a poll, right? So we have to have people show up to vote. Who turns out to vote is important. Who got their people to the polls? And we'll see if those numbers remain close throughout the night. My expectation would be probably that Little will begin to pull away.
And for all the newcomers that are new to the state, Idaho has not elected a Democratic governor since 1990. Mark, you want to add something on
Right,
on
talking
this
about
race?
Cecil Andrus there. I just wanted to break down where the counties are right now that have that Paulette Jordan is leading. And first of all, here's Ada County. She has a 54-44 lead on Brad Little in Ada County. And then look at way over on the eastern side of the state. That is tiny Teton County, and Paulette Jordan leading Brad Little 62-36. And you can see about a third of the rest of the state is red. Custer County, Lemhi County, Twin Falls County, where Republicans top Democrats 6-1. There's Jerome County, up here Adams County, and Nez Perce. But you can see all of the other counties in gray. We are waiting for votes to be counted and tabulated. So that's what we're seeing right now for the governor's race.
Let's take a look at where the race for lieutenant governor stands right now, and those numbers that we have from the Secretary of State's website coming in, and I'll be pulling them up here. The latest numbers that we have, Kristen Cullum is still in the lead with 56% of the vote. Republican Janice McGeehan behind with 43% of the vote. If we look at the race for congressional district number 1, we have Russ Fulcher, Republican, 56% of the vote. And his challenger, Christina McNeil from the Democratic Party, about 40% of that vote. And District 2, Mike Simpson is right now not in the lead at 40% with his Democratic opponent Aaron Schwischer with 59% of the vote. What does that say? Is that because just some of the earlier precincts that are coming in? Because everyone has said, you know, that Simpson is a shoe-in on this one.
Oh, he is. Yeah. I think, again, that may be Ada County precincts coming in, and we do expect, based on history, that a lot of the Boise City precincts will vote for the Democrat, and of course part of the 2nd Congressional District includes part of the Boise metro area, right? So you'll see some early Democrat voting there, but Simpson has a long-standing term of service, very familiar to voters in eastern Idaho, and I would be shocked if he doesn't do well the rest of the evening.
And you guys, this might be a good opportunity because there are so many newcomers in the state.
Yeah.
We've done so many reports that about 1,200 newcomers come into Idaho every month. And so for those of you that are wondering, why is Idaho such a red state? We've got a little snapshot here that I wanted to pull up on the screen. And this shows that as of November 1st, there were 850,000 registered voters. 433,000 of them registered as GOP, 104,000 registered as Democrats, and then look at this number, 300,000 unaffiliated voters, 300,000. And that is why the Democrats are thinking that they have a chance in some of these races if they can pluck off the majority of these unaffiliates and add to the 104,000 that they have. They're right where they need to be to compete with a very dominant GOP in this state. And as you see on the bottom, 7,000 libertarians. So that's just a snapshot to give you an idea about an uphill battle that the Democrats have waged in this state for the last 3 decades.
That's true, Mark. It's great background. One measure of the strength of the GOP in Idaho relative to the Democrats can be gained by looking at the number of unopposed candidates. And there are, I believe, 30 different legislative seats where there is no Democrat opponent. And that makes it very difficult to end up with parity in the legislature or even a competitive second party. So there are 105 seats in the Idaho legislature, I believe. So if you've got 30 of them where there's not even a contest, that gives you some sense of the relative strength of the two parties, one to another. A lot of an advantage for the Republicans. Now, a lot of questions I get are about, well, what about all the new people to the state? Isn't this going to make it more Democratic? And the answer is probably no. The newcomers are often coming from parts of, say, California or the state of Washington or Utah, where they're a typical Republican voter, suburban GOP voter, for example. So they move to Idaho, and it's not necessarily turning the state purple or really increasing the power of the Democrats. But an important thing Mark pointed out is we have a substantial number of people who don't really identify with either party, who choose to be unaffiliated. So both parties can compete for that large group, and if you can get your people to the polls, it can make a difference.
And we're seeing the turnout this today and in early voting. All right, let's get the latest. I'm sorry, Mark, you have something else to add to that?
Just something else that struck me right here, and I want to get your take on this.
Sure.
We've got the Prop 2 going on right now. Ray, if we want to take this full screen so we can see it, you can see Prop 2, 65 to 35. I understand we have a full screen graphic that might show it better. Okay, there you go. That is telling on Prop 2, but what is going on with the reporting on Prop 1, the horse racing, legalizing those horse racing gaming terminals in the state? We don't have any numbers in yet, and maybe we need to check with Gretchen to find out what's going on at the street level and why we're not getting any numbers on the Prop 1. Any idea there? Any speculation?
Well, let me just check. Let me see. I'm trying to go to the Secretary of State's website to see if we're getting better numbers from that website. And they are, Mark, they're reporting numbers on Prop 1. Again, very, very neck and neck. Yes for Prop 1, 47%. No for Prop 1 on 52%.
Okay.
So right now...
So those numbers haven't tabulated yet on our website.
Right. On our website, yeah. But right now, as it stands, again, very early numbers coming in with Prop 1. Right now, it is losing. The no, 52%, yes, 47%. And while we're talking about props, let's go ahead and mention Prop 2. Way ahead. Yes for Prop 2, 70% of the vote. No, 29%.
Okay.
And we've been talking so much about Prop 2, and when they got the endorsement from Governor Otter, was that just kind of what sealed the deal? Because a lot of talk that we're hearing is that they're going to get it. It's going to be a yes to Prop 2. Do you think the fact that Otter came out and endorsed it, you think that gave them a big boost, or were they already up and over it?
Well, I think there was a lot of support for it already, but that probably helped. You know, the governor's often the standard bearer for the party in the state, and so this may have signaled to people that it's okay, or at least okay to consider that. I think that a lot of it has to do with the phrasing, the expansion of Medicaid and covering those 88,000 Idahoans who fall in that gap. That's critical. And, you know, the governor worked with the legislature this last year to try to find ways to bridge that gap. And if this proposition passes, it will give an agenda to the legislature to consider how to fill that out and implement that.
All right, we want to send it to the Democratic headquarters. Christina McNeil is standing by with our Morgan Boydston. Christina, of course, locked up in that fight and has been. As you mentioned, Morgan, here is an immigrant from Mexico City who came up here in the 90s, and she is running to become the next representative. And let's take it away.
Yeah, Mark, as you mentioned, she moved here from Mexico City in 1995, correct?
That's correct, yes.
And when did you move to Idaho?
I moved to Idaho in 2003.
Okay.
That was the time that we decided to make it home. My daughter was about 5 years old, so we've been here for 15 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you are a realtor. What made you want to step up? I know you have a strong stance on immigration reform as well as a multitude of other issues. What made you want to step up and represent Idahoans?
You know, I've been advocating for 15 years since I got here to Idaho. I've been with an organization called Idaho Community Network and also with the Main Street Alliance. So I've been advocating for a long time in the state level, in the national level. And I've been taking all these issues, all the issues of Idahoans, all the way to Washington, D.C. But I haven't seen any response, you know, and I've been 15 years doing it, and I just felt that I'm not going to wait another 15 years. I had to step in and become a candidate and try to bring the voice and common sense and solutions to the issues that we have for such a long time. So I think it was time for me to step in.
What other issues do you see you could address if you go to D.C. and you represent Idaho?
I think one of the issues that I would like to be part of it, one of the committees that I would like to be if I become your congresswoman, will be natural resources. We have a tremendous issue on the Congressional District number 1 on regards to the lands that are being very much under attack on regards to the rise on the gas, oil, and minerals that are happening in the state of Idaho. And also other issues that we have in the infrastructure that are not being addressed. So I think it's time for us to step in and take some really, really hard decisions and be very, very responsible about our fiscal budget, making those changes. When people come and ask me, we don't have the budget, say, don't tell me we don't have it. The money is there. We need fiscal responsibility. And we have money for other things like fighting political battles that we shouldn't have to put money into it. Put the money into the people, into the education, into infrastructure, into better healthcare, into better issues that we have addressed. Housing is another one that is a tremendous potential that we have in Idaho that we can develop, but we need to have fiscal responsibility in order for us to have that.
Wonderful. And I know you're watching the polls closely, or at least your team is. Regardless of what happens tonight, how are you feeling?
I feel great, regardless of what's happening. I guess one of the things as somebody that's been advocating for a long time is that in our purpose, in our soul and heart, is about bringing the word and the awareness to the people. Spreading the seed, letting you know this is what you have, these are your choices. And it is an opportunity that you have on the table, and you need to have it all. You need to have some sort of choice there, some balance there. So I'm very happy that we had that opportunity, not only myself, but a lot of candidates that decided to step in and say, I'm here to support you on your healthcare issues. I'm here to support you on your education issues for your children. I'm here to support for any tools that you need so you as a parent, as a mother, as a father, as a business owner can develop yourself and be productive to the society. So yes, definitely feel great about it one way or another.
Okay, good. Well, we'll check back in with you as soon as all of those precincts are counted across the state of Idaho. Thank you for your time and for joining us. We'll send it back to you guys in the studio.
Well, she certainly has her hands full growing up against Russ Fulcher, who has been in politics a long time. Originally announced that he would run for governor, but then when Raul Labrador also announced that, then he quickly moved into that seat and opposed Christina McNeil.
It's been a while since we've heard from the Republicans, so let's send it out to Dee Sarton and Joe Paris. They've been standing by at the Republican headquarters all night. Guys, can you hear us? What do you have?
Yeah, we can hear you, and I think it'd be interesting for you to hear some insight that Tom Luna has been looking at as you've been kind of comparing the governor's race and the superintendent's race and the votes coming in for Brad Little and Sherri Ybarra.
Yeah, what I've been looking at is the percentage of vote that Brad Little is getting, like in Bonneville County, is well over 60%. Those same ballots have Ybarra in the low 40%, right? So the same ballots that are being counted and reported, there's a number of counties where Ybarra is underperforming the rest of the Republican ticket. That's helping us better understand why we're seeing what we're currently seeing, where Cindy Wilson is ahead, but the other Republicans are winning. The way this will play out in my mind is it will get to a certain point where most of the vote in this part of the state has been counted, and then we'll be waiting for the North Idaho vote. Sherri Ybarra won that easily 4 years ago, and if Cindy Wilson has a lead, it'll have to be a considerable lead in order to maintain once the rest of the vote from North Idaho comes in.
But what you're seeing now indicates that perhaps Republicans are not just going R all the way down the ballot.
Yeah, that's obvious, yeah. Yeah, Bonneville County and Ada County, a number of where Brad Little and other Republicans are getting considerably more votes than Sherri Ybarra is. The question is that a trend that will maintain throughout the night? And then once we start getting significant votes from North Idaho, how that will factor into the final count.
As you take a look at the Paulette Jordan and Brad Little race, what are you seeing there? Are you seeing anything interesting that stands out, or is it falling pretty much the way you thought it might so far?
Well, remember, not too many months ago, we were sitting here and Paulette Jordan was just kind of an afterthought in our conversation, and she was leading early, and we thought, well, eventually this will all play out and Belukoff will win, and that didn't happen. So yeah, I think that we should pay attention to that race also for a while longer.
Of course we will, and we'll send it back to you.
All right. Thank you for that perspective, Tom Luna.
All right. Again, for those of you watching on Facebook Live, Idaho's very own 24/7 and KTVB.com, we are going to close off this hour, and on the other side, join us on Idaho's News Channel 7, KTVB, and we're going to take you all the way into what we may become the early morning hours when the final tabulations are in. We're not going to let you go to bed until we know exactly who's the winner.
And it's my understanding that Dee Sarton has been talking with the Republican governor candidate Brad Little, and you should be hearing from him close to the top of the hour as he is standing by with Dee Sarton. So we'll be hearing from him, and hopefully we'll be hearing again from Paulette Jordan and all of the other candidates as we get closer and closer to the final results.
In the meantime, even during our commercial breaks, when we take you to the other side, you will be able to see the numbers at the bottom of your screen. Hopefully you've got a large 16:9 big screen and it makes it a little easier on you to see those numbers than me. So, you know the story. We'll see you on the other side. Election coverage continues next.
For years, I thought I was lactose intolerant. Turns out I was just sensitive to a protein commonly found in milk. Now with A2 milk, I can finally enjoy cereal again.
It's delicious like real milk, because it is real milk.
A2 milk is real milk from real cows that produce only the A2 protein.
I love milk. I'm so happy I found it. A2 milk, real milk that's easier on digestion. Love milk again.
There's little rest for a single dad, and back pain made it hard to sleep and get up on time. Then I found Aleve PM.
The only one to combine a safe sleep aid plus the 12-hour pain-relieving strength of Aleve.
I'm back.
Aleve PM for a better AM.
Hey, I'm Sue, and my first call is Crunch.
Delicious 100% real chocolate embracing the lightness of crispy rice. Crunch, the chocolate bar all Americans love.
She's doing it again. No cover-up spray here. Cheaper aerosols can cover up odors, burying them in a flowery fog. Switch to Febreze Air Effects. Febreze eliminates even the toughest odors from the air. Freshen up. Don't cover up. Febreze.
We came to Burlington to buy a coat.
Well, look what we found.
I got holiday decorations.
Barware.
Coffee and chocolate.
Makeup. Christmas dinner.
Amazing electronics.
All the great brands at a fraction of the cost.
Now we know why Burlington isn't Coat Factory anymore.
Fact is, every insurance company hopes you drive safely. But Allstate actually helps you drive safely with DriveWise. It lets you know when you go too fast and brake too hard. With feedback to help you drive safer, giving you the power to actually lower your cost. Unfortunately, you can't do anything about that. Now that you know the truth, are you in good hands?
From the KTVB Newsgroup, this is a Decision 2018 special. Live now, team coverage of the Idaho general election.
And good evening. Welcome to our special election night coverage.
Polls in Idaho are closed. The results are starting to come in. We have team coverage for you tonight. We are scattered all over the valley, from the Democratic headquarters to the Republican. Parsons is on her way to the Proposition 2 people. Everything you need for tonight's election coverage Decision 2018.
But we begin with our Dee Sarton alongside Lieutenant Governor Brad Little, running for the top office, Governor of Idaho. Dee.
Well, indeed he is, and it has been quite an interesting few months since we were here on primary night, and you won that very contentious primary battle, and now you've had an interesting race the past few months with Democrat Paulette Jordan. How are you feeling tonight?
It's been a while. It was a very contested primary and a pretty darn contested general.
You know, we saw you in the debates with Paulette Jordan. We saw the last debate was one of those where I think all of us felt the tension in the room. There was a lot of tension in the room. As you look at how this played out in Idaho and how Idahoans have responded to your campaign, How are you feeling tonight about what the turnout is and what the results might be?
Well, it's like everything else in life. You just do the best you can. You know, we're surrounded by incredible people, had a great staff, incredible volunteers, drove thousands and thousands and thousands of miles. We made 3,000 phone calls last night out of our campaign headquarters here. So, you know, it's like when you get to the end of the